I'm so glad to be making this reflection as the rain makes its way down around me. So grateful to God for this gift of water that's poured out on our fields and our crops. Whenever it's been dry for a long time, I'm reminded of the summer at 99, my last year of seminary, that I was able to spend in the Holy Land. Many meaningful experiences, but a few lighthearted ones along the way. And our first night that we got there, we'd all flown, I guess, into Tel Aviv and somehow gotten to this Tantur, our center between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. And we were all in the chapel. I was kind of tagging along a stowaway with a group of Christian ministers on sabbatical. So all of them were years into their ministry, and I was just kind of, almost ready to be ordained. And so we had this prayer service as we gathered, whatever it took to be in the Holy Land. And one of the ministers, very, very concerned with just how dry everything was, started her prayer for rain, and all of the locals just bust out laughing because it was the dry season. And even the prophets would have known better than to ask God for a cloud during the dry season. Like maybe you could ask for a little bit of haze in the early morning, but otherwise nothing was coming out of the sky because it was the dry season. There's the season for rains to fall, and this was not the season. I'm so glad our season for falling rain has come again. As I think of that dryness, I'm reminded always of an afternoon. The gardener, and I'm sure he did this with just about every person who made their way through Tantur. It sounded like one of his favorite things to do, and one of my favorite, to learn something that makes me rethink a bunch of things. And this is one of those things. He took me out to the garden because he wanted to show me something, and it was grapevines, but they weren't trellised in hedges like I was used to along a fence. They were trellised along almost like ground cover, but a foot off the ground with the grapes hanging beneath the leaves, and the leaves kind of all trellised about a foot off the ground on these horizontal trellises. And he explained to me that this was because during the dry season, which we were in, it would take too much water to keep grapevines thriving if they were growing vertically. But horizontally, the leaves would catch the morning dew every morning, and that would help keep the vines alive and thriving on the dew. Now, he wasn't just showing me how to grow grapes. He was trying to help me fix a translation error in this Sunday's gospel. And I've gotten away from the habit of reading the gospel. I think you can read it yourself. But this Sunday, I'm going to read a portion of it just so we can look at the translation. So we read from John's gospel. Jesus said to his disciples, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes so that it bears more fruit." He goes on for a little while, and then he says, "Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you." So, it's that first line that he retranslated for me. The Greek is kathairo, which kata is either up or away as a preposition, and airo is to lift or to carry. So Interesting, kathairo is also the word for resurrection, to raise up. But that didn't make any sense to most of the people who do the translations, right? They're like, well, it's not to raise up. Why would you raise up a branch that wasn't bearing fruit? So kath could also be away, so you could take it, instead of up, you could take it away. And so that's what they ended up, most of the translations carrying, to take away every branch that doesn't bear fruit and prune the ones that do bear fruit. And then later, to the ones that are disconnected, are not connected to the vine, they're going to wither and get thrown over the fence and burned. That's fine unless you know Jesus, or you know a little bit about agriculture in Jesus' land. Because if your vines have been trellised for thousands of years now, right? A foot above the ground, the branches that fall off the trellis, that trail to the ground, they won't bear fruit because they're along the ground. And the vines that are on the trellis, that are growing correctly, bear fruit. So what does the vine grower do? What does the Father do for those who are connected to the vine but have fallen off the trellis? He lifts them up and retwines them into the trellis. Isn't that awesome? Yes, it's true, we could be disconnected from the vine and we could wither and be thrown over the fence and burned in the fire. Jesus acknowledges that. But his first two set of options, for those of us who are connected to the vine, either we're not bearing fruit because we're fragile and laying on the ground, at which the Father will lift us up and gently reintegrate us and connect us, or we're bearing fruit and we need to be pruned so some new growth will come off and we can bear more fruit. I'm pretty sure that Teresa of Avila said to the Lord that with friends, if this is how he treats his friends, no wonder he has so few, right? That this is a hard saying, but a beautiful saying, a saying of compassion and tenderness and kindness, even if it challenges us as we are bearing fruit. And so I just share that with you, a reflection on translations and a reflection on Middle Eastern agriculture, but mostly a reflection on the Father's love, mostly a reflection about how God invites us to be part of his Son, Jesus, the vine, how he invites us to bear fruit, how he will help us when we are weak, and pruning us, encourage us when we are strong.